What it is, Cucks, it's your boy, The Hater. It's almost Thanksgiving, so The Hater is very excited. And I want to take an opportunity to do a video about wrestling, because that's what we do in this piece, you know what I mean? Now, don't go anywhere, because you can hear some crazy things in this one. This is a personal favorite of The Haters, right? Some of The Haters' best work is happening now, and I'm gonna continue improving, so stick around. Now, also subscribe if you haven't, cuck. Anyways, let's get to the topic at hand. The concept of wrestling as a medium of storytelling is basically predicated on a number of assumptions, right? There are a number of factors that must be present for wrestling to make sense. The primary factor is that in the universe of wrestling, right, in the greater storyline of wrestling, which is a world that exists kind of outside of our own world, right? It's almost like this magical world where things only happen once a week, right? That's just how it is, because it's a TV show. In this magical world, we have certain hierarchies and certain logical systems of progression. What I mean by that is if you debut, your goal is to become the best wrestler in the WWE. This is a built-in assumption for every wrestler that has ever wrestled for WWE. Gangrel, presumably, wanted to one day become WWE champion, the same way that Midian wanted the same thing, the same way that JBL wanted the same thing, the same way that The Undertaker and The Rock and Stone Cold wanted the same thing, right? Now, there can only be one, so some of these people, like Gangrel, are never going to get a chance. That's neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about different levels of mid-card, undercard, and main event. But the implications are that certain wrestlers are going to be limited. And in order to continue to climb up the ranks, wrestlers have other goals they can achieve to help them get there, right? For example, for the longest time, the Intercontinental title was considered a stepping stone to get to the WWE title. Likewise, the European title was considered a stepping stone to get to the Intercontinental title, right? The tag team titles, they have their own division, and for a tag team wrestler, the zenith is becoming tag team champion, right? That's the only exception. For example, during the Attitude Era, nobody ever thought, oh, I wonder if Devon has aspirations to become WWE champion. No, Devon's aspirations are clear. He's in a tag team with Bubba, and neither of them have any aspirations to become anything other than tag team champions, right? That's their goal, and that's fine. Once they reach that, then their goal is to stay champion, right? Their storyline ends there. But other wrestlers, singles wrestlers, all of them have one unitary goal. Their goal is very, very clear: to become the best at what they do. And that's why we have other events throughout the year. King of the Ring, Royal Rumble, right? All of these culminate with getting you one step closer to the WWE title. The King of the Ring wasn't always what it is today. Xavier Woods wins the King of the Ring, and he just starts acting like a king. No, it was prestigious because it got you one step closer to being WWE champion, right? It was more prestigious to be King of the Ring winner than it was to be Intercontinental champion, because the implications were, if you're a King of the Ring winner, you're next, right? Or you're one of the ones that's next. Same thing with the Rumble. The Rumble gets you a direct title shot at WrestleMania, but even if you don't win the title the title match, the implications still are that you are that dude for this year, right? When Nakamura won, that didn't happen anymore. And since then, all the winners have been people that there hasn't been any new winners since then, right? It's been a bunch of Randy Ortons and Cody Rhodeses. People that everyone expected to win. Seth Rollins, shit like that. You heard? So, with that being said, the hierarchy of wrestling is, in my opinion, a very sacred concept that is central to the idea of wrestling. Now, the beautiful thing about wrestling is that this hierarchy can be circumvented, right? Can be manipulated by the storylines that happen in wrestling. For example, if someone is not, let's say, someone is not going to be a world champion soon because they just started, the implications are, if they get one win, or they rub the champion the wrong way or the right way, they might skip the line, right? So for example, let's say that we have a new guy called Del Rio, right? Del Rio is going to need to work his way up. However, if Del Rio, or I'll give you a better example, Carlito, right? Carlito, he debuts, and clearly they have plans for him, right? Now, Carlito needs to start wrestling like, Shelton Benjamin and Cody Rhodes and other jobbers like that. But because they want to push him quickly, they just have him interrupt John Cena, right? And Carlito basically says, oh, I think I can beat you, Cena, right? This pisses Cena off, which forces Cena to give him a title match. Carlito wins on essentially a fluke, and that's the end of that, right? Carlito has been established as a mid-carder because he's the mid-card champion. You can do this. You can use storylines to make it so Carlito doesn't have to start from the beginning. You can use storylines to make it so Cody Rhodes can just win the Royal Rumble. You can do this, and that's perfectly fine. But the hierarchy and the journey, the progression of the wrestler up the card is still instrumental to wrestling, right? So what happens when we have wrestlers that don't want to go up the card? What happens when we have people like Jacob Fatu who have no aspirations to do anything? Jacob Fatu is basically retarded. Like, if you look at the character of Jacob Fatu, he's not there for the money, right? He's not there for the money because we've never heard anything that would insinuate that at all, right? He's not there for the money. He obviously isn't there for the championships. He's there to do another man's bidding, right? Now, how can I ever accept that one day Jacob Fatu, if he wins the Intercontinental title, he'll be happy about this? Why? Why did he try to do that from the beginning, right? In other words, the debut of Jacob Fatu versus the debut of someone like Carlito are completely different. Carlito comes in, and the first thing he wants to do is he wants to become champion. MVP comes in, and he explains very clearly that he signed a lucrative deal, which honestly was one of the least believable things of all time. Remember when MVP debuted with his Power Ranger getup? And I'm supposed to believe that this guy who looks like a nerd, that this guy is like this blue chip athlete? And it's like, you realize we have Randy Orton in this company, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? You realize that we have like Triple H and Brock Lesnar here. And you expect me to believe that MVP is the highest paid guy here? He looks like shit compared to these guys, right? But whatever, that's not here nor there. The point stands. MVP was presented as a character with a motivation. Money, right? Wrestlers get paid a lot of money, presumably, so he's there to get money, right? So, for example, a character like MVP has no reason to go after titles unless it makes them more money. That's the motivation of the character. The motivation of Jacob Fatu is basically, I'm going to fly around the country and on live TV protect Solo Sikoa. Why would he even be hired, right? None of this makes sense in kayfabe. There are some exceptions. Sometimes, if the storyline is powerful enough, right? Like if you have The Undertaker, who's a demon from hell, who I don't know why he's in wrestling, but he's a demon from hell, then it's understandable that his brother Kane, who was burned and disfigured, is coming after him. Fine, you can make that jump. Once in a while, it's okay. But even Kane and The Undertaker wanted to be WWE champion. Kane came in, became champion almost immediately, for a day, but it doesn't matter. The point is, all the serious wrestlers want to be champions. And every serious wrestler aspires to be WWE champion. I'll give you a great example. When Eddie Guerrero, Jericho, Benoit, Kurt Angle, right? Edge, when these people that would end up becoming legends, except for Benoit, who's a murderous piece of shit, but everybody else became a legend, it was very clear that, at least implicitly, they wanted to be WWE champion. Billy Gunn is a great example. Billy Gunn became the Intercontinental champion, but then he goes and interrupts Triple H and he says, I want the world title. Bob Hawley on Sunday Night Heat would go to Triple H and say, I think I can beat you. Give me a title match. So how come nobody does this today, right? If Jacob Fatu is the black sheep of the Fatu family, of the Anoa'i family, why doesn't he, being the most dangerous of them all, why doesn't he have any aspirations to be tribal chief? I mean, clearly the answer to that is he's retarded, so he knows that he can never be the tribal chief, right? We all know people like this. We all know people that are servile in their life, and they have no aspirations to do anything other than to make their boss happy. They exist. I'm not saying they don't exist, and these characters should also exist. But to be consistent, I'm not going to believe, for example, that Jacob Fatu one day wants to be WWE champion. Whereas, when Evolution was a thing, Triple H was the champion, and momentarily, Orton and Batista are happy to be there and learn from Triple H, right, who is not Jacob Fatu. The implications always were, these guys are next. It's only a matter of time before one of them betrays Triple H. And that one was Randy Orton first. I mean, he didn't betray him, but you know what I mean, right? He went out on his own. Even though Randy Orton was the lackey of Evolution, he became WWE champion. In other words, Triple H was not the champion at the time. It was Benoit. And they needed a number one contender. Randy Orton tried to become the number one contender. You see what I'm saying? He tried to do it. Same thing with Cody Rhodes, I hate to admit it. But when he was part of Legacy, the implications always were that this is permanent for Randy Orton, but temporary for Cody Rhodes and obviously to a lesser degree, Ted DiBiase. The implications were that even though they're all friends, Cody Rhodes and DiBiase are not there to protect Randy Orton's ass. They'll do that to get to the next step. They're using Randy Orton, whereas Randy Orton wants him to be servile forever. That was the whole idea, right? And that's where Randy Orton had that segment with DiBiase where he like put him in his place because he was getting a little too happy. He was getting a little bit too close to doing that, right? So that's what I'm getting at here. You understand what I'm saying? The point is, all the lackeys, all the people that have no direction should have a direction, right? That's why, for example, I resonate very deeply with characters like Bronson Reed, who is like, okay, I want to make an impact. I want to be famous. I want to be rich. I want to have titles. And more recently, Tommaso Ciampa, right? I love this new direction of Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa is like, wait a second, we're not here to fuck around, right? In the context of kayfabe, Tommaso Ciampa and Gargano aren't here to be friends with the tag team champions. They're here to be the tag team champions, right? So all this kind of horseshit like Randy Orton is like, Cody's my brother. I'll never go after him. What are you talking about? Randy Orton is the same guy that said I would RKO my grandmother for the WWE title, right? So you see what I'm getting at here? Randy Orton should be like killing Cody Rhodes. Everybody should be going after the champion, even the champion's friends. This is what made wrestling good back in the day, because everything was volatile. You had Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, they're tag team champions. Rey beats Eddie, they hug, but you know what's coming next. You know Eddie Guerrero is too petty and small to let that shit slide. You know he's gonna attack Rey Mysterio and do some dastardly shit and give us one of the greatest stories of all time, right? And as soon as Rey Mysterio pinned him, you're like, oh shit, here it comes, right? You know some cool shit's gonna happen from this. But Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Sami Zayn, these guys, it's like, I'll put it to you in terms that everyone can understand. Let's say you have Mel Gibson in his prime, right? A real man, Mel Gibson, right? And then like his lackey is like, I don't know, Zach Galifianakis, right? Or fucking, I don't know, the guy from fucking Lonely Island. Like it's like these guys who are clearly like inferior to him, right? It's like you never expect Zach Galifianakis in a movie to beat up Arnold Schwarzenegger or the guy, the Andy, whatever his name is, from Lonely Island. You don't expect him to like go beat up The Rock in a movie, right? It's not gonna happen, right? They're lackeys. Their characters will always be lackeys. But wrestling is not a land of these jobbers. Wrestling is supposed to be a land of elite men and, more recently, elite women. But there are no elite men. That's why the hater has to talk about people like JBL and Val Venus to make his points half the time. Because Val Venus, even though he was there to have fun and be a porn star, he was also there to win championships. Val Venus looked like a god, and he would come out and he would say, I want to be champion, right? He would try to win matches. He would try to become the number one contender. He would try to become a mid-card champion, and he did become a mid-card champion several times. But you understand what I'm getting at. The point is, you can't have people just being there for fun. You knew, when you saw Evolution, when you saw Kurt Angle starting out, when you saw Chris Benoit, you knew that Chris Benoit was not happy to be Intercontinental Champion, right? He wasn't like, I'm happy to be Intercontinental Champion. He was like, I did it. What's next, right? That's the mentality that wrestlers should have. Now, that mentality has been replaced with Jey Uso crying like a little bitch, like a bitch pussy. I'm getting that word over. Like a bitch pussy because he won the Intercontinental title. My mom is proud of me. She shouldn't be. You won a fake title, it took you 15 years. You should be proud of the fact that you're in the WWE due to nepotism and haven't been fired yet. That's pretty impressive. That's about it. You know what I'm saying? You didn't accomplish anything, right? LA Knight, who's my favorite wrestler of the moment, even he's happy to be U.S. champion. It's almost like he keeps bringing it up. He's like, oh, Logan Paul didn't defend the title. Move on, bro. Move on. It's like he's hung up on the fact that he's not Logan Paul. We get it. You're not. You're better. We all like you more than Logan Paul. Now go for the fucking world title and save this shithole of a company. And with that being said, take care of yourselves. Cucks.